Hey, welcome back to Logical Republican. Thank you again for stopping in. Once more, if you like what you see, like what you hear, please hit that like button. The subscribe button is right next to it. That would be greatly appreciated as well. If you've got a friend who maybe is a little bit like-minded, hit the share button. If you've got another friend who is the complete opposite of you and you want to really piss them off, hit the share button and chuckle a little bit. Today, let's talk about something, again, a little bit different. Not quite political, but kind of, sort of. It's the progressive left who hate CEOs that make a lot of money. It is the progressive journalists and newspapers and publications and bloggers that despise CEOs that make big paychecks more than the rank and file. Now, let's kind of dive into that and let's examine why, okay? There are some CEOs out there. I'll just throw out a Jeff Bezos of the world or a Bill Gates of the world who are frickin' billionaires, right? They're like the richest people on planet Earth. And why is that? Well, they had a good idea. They kept a lot of the stock and they kept on recreating themselves, right? Now, that's the American dream. You come from basically nothing, although Bill Gates didn't come from nothing. His dad was a high-priced attorney, and the guy went to Harvard or something, although he dropped out. But nonetheless, he came from something, but a lot of these other people didn't. But let's look at some CEOs, okay? We'll go back and we'll look at some really stupid decisions, and then we'll look at some brilliant decisions. Now, in, I think it was 2007, 2008, Steve Jobs went to Intel. So Intel is and was the leading CPU company on planet Earth, right? A CPU is the engine that runs your computer, whether it's your laptop, your desktop, a server in a data center, whatever. Something like 70% of the CPUs in those computers are made by Intel. The other 30%, or give or take, are usually made by AMD or ARM or one of the other smaller semiconductor companies. But for the sake of argument, let's just say that Intel is the king of the castle and was back in 2007, 2008, when Steve Jobs went to their CEO, a guy named Paul Otellini, and said, hey man, I've got this idea. I want somebody to make chips for me. I'm making this phone thing and it's going to be really big. And, he supposedly crunched the numbers and the numbers didn't add up and he couldn't figure out how to make a profit out of it. So he said, yeah, you know what? I'll pass. Well, guess what? What you have in your back pocket, maybe you're watching this on, it's a phone. It's a smartphone. It's a smartphone that was designed and developed by Steve Jobs, okay? Yes, there are other companies that make them. Maybe you think a Samsung is a better choice, but whatever. The Samsung came after the iPhone, all right? So this guy, Paul Otellini, the CEO of Intel at the time, who is now deceased, made basically a fatal decision of why, okay? Intel at the time was one of the most valuable companies on planet Earth. Now it's kind of, market cap wise, it also ran. Now their stock price is sitting at around $30 and it's been in purgatory for years because Intel has done pretty much nothing to make it better. Paul Gelsinger, their current CEO, hasn't done much. He's, basically a bean counter. He's like Tim Cook, right? He's a caretaker. No creative juices in their body. And they're just basically keeping it going and milking all of the inventions and designs of their predecessors. But let's look at Steve Jobs and these other guys. Now, again, the progressives complain. The CEOs are overpaid. They make too much money. The rank and file doesn't make enough. Blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? Most of the rank and file are, to use an analogy here, they are like the person who's sitting in the frozen food section at your favorite grocery store at 3 a.m. in the morning with knee pads on, stocking frozen TV dinners. Okay? They are very, very, very replaceable. For the most part, right? 95% of any of these major companies, their staff is replaceable. That's a fact, okay? Are engineers at Microsoft or Amazon or Facebook well paid? Absolutely. Do they do great work? Absolutely. Are they brilliant? Absolutely. But guess what? There's probably 10 other people out there that can do their job. So therefore, they are replaceable. The CEOs, are they replaceable? Well, Paul Gelsinger, in my opinion, is. Paul Otellini was definitely replaceable after those decisions. Steve Jobs was replaced by a guy named John Scully. Remember him? If you watched if you read the Steve Jobs biography, or if you saw any of the biopics that were made about him, John Scully came from Pepsi. John Scully didn't know the difference from a potato chip to a computer chip. He had no clue. Potato chip, computer chip, it's all a chip. Whatever, I'll sell it. Well, he had no clue. Steve Jobs came back, created the iPod, and then the iPhone, and the iMac, and all of these other things. And voila, Apple was for a long time the world's most valuable company. It is irreplaceable at this point in our lives. I'm sure at some point there's going to be somebody else that comes along. But why was Steve Jobs one of the wealthiest people in the world? Why was Steve Jobs one of the highest paid CEOs, even though his paycheck annually was $1? Well, because he made the tough decisions. He made the brilliant predictions that the market would go in this direction. And he was duly compensated, and rightly so. So all of the progressives that think that he was making too much money, shut the F up. Elon Musk. Okay, is Elon Musk currently the world's wealthiest man? I don't know. It's jockeying back and forth, but he's got more money than he can spend in 5,000 lifetimes. And you know what? That's okay. And if you are questioning my opinion here, go back and watch the documentary, The Electric Car. I don't know where it's playing these days. I remember seeing it once on Netflix, but it's somewhere. It's called The Electric Car, and it kind of details the whole background of Elon Musk and how Tesla kind of came to be, and how he took his last few dollars, actually it wasn't few, it was like $5 million, and deposited into the Tesla bank account, basically draining his personal account. So he was personally broke to keep the company alive. And then things started to turn around, and he made it all happen. Then SpaceX happened, and the rest is history. Tesla is kind of, it's synonymous with the electric car. He created an industry. Is he making a crazy amount of money? Absolutely. Is he a borderline nutcase to work for? I don't know. I don't know him personally, but I've heard stories and we've all read things. So maybe, yeah. But you know what? Again, that's okay. Where did Elon Musk come from? Not much. I mean, he wasn't poor when he grew up, and he came to the States to go to college. But, let's look at Silicon Valley and, a few people there, right? Charles Liang at Supermicro. He came from nothing, came from Taiwan, came to the U.S. to go to college, started a company called Supermicro. It was a small company. In fact, just a few years ago, the company was mired. I think they got delisted from NASDAQ. Just a few years ago, the company's market cap was about $3 billion. Today, it's about $50 billion. But why? Because Charles made the decision to pony up and hook his cart to the NVIDIA horse and keep it running. And that put their stock into the stratosphere. Lisa Su, who's the AMD CEO, she came from Taiwan when she was a little kid. Her parents won the lottery. They came to the States. They were teachers. She was really smart. The American dream. She went from nothing, living somewhere in New York, to MIT. She got her PhD, got a job at IBM, and now she's the CEO at AMD. The stock price was $2 when she took over. Today, it's about 160. Do the math. She's not making a huge amount in salary. It's all in stock. Jensen Huang. Okay, another guy that came from Taiwan. I'm sure his parents had a little bit of money over there, but he came to the States to go to school. Where did he go? I think the University of Oregon or Oregon State, something like that. a dozen years ago, there were rumors that Intel was going to buy them because they were struggling. They were making video cards, and their stock was like $12 a share. Okay? Now, today, he is one of the wealthiest persons on planet Earth. NVIDIA is the most valuable company on planet Earth. I think they leapfrogged Microsoft recently. And he is phenomenally well paid, which again is good. Jeff Bezos. Let's look at good old Jeff, okay? Jeff came from basically nothing, right? He was, I think he grew up in Albuquerque or something like that. Didn't come from money. Went to college. Again, the American dream. Chased it, did the right thing, got a job, got a better job, got an even better job. Then he had this silly idea of selling books on the internet. I don't know how the hell he sold that to venture capitalists, but he did. They were losing money for years and years and years. Then he came up with this great idea of AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, which is basically the quote-unquote cloud that you hear so much about, right? You start a company, you want to get a website, you can do it one of a few ways. You can go to a hosting company, which is basically the cloud. Or if you don't want to go to a hosting company and have your own server, you can rent part of the server from a company like Amazon and AWS, and you pay a monthly fee, and then they handle everything. Then there was Prime, and Prime was originally just delivery, right? You want a free delivery for a year, you pay $49 or whatever, and then it became TV, and then it became movies, and then suddenly it's the NFL. And all of this from an idea of selling books. My point being is that if it was just selling books, Amazon probably would have been dead years and years and years ago. But Jeff Bezos had ideas, and he surrounded himself with brilliant people to keep the company evolving and going from a bookseller to a cloud service provider to somebody who's actually hosting or televising NFL games every Thursday night. It's freaking amazing. It's the American dream. But you have all of these people that are just pissing on their parade because they make too much money and they want to whatever, right? Spread the wealth, cut it all up and give it to people who want to sit home on their ass and watch TV. How do these people make all of this happen? Well, it's called calculated risk. Okay, calculated risk is when you look at an idea and then you, in your own mind or on a piece of paper or a spreadsheet, you calculate what it's going to cost, what the potential payout is going to be, and your percentage of success or failure. Yes, now it's also called correctly predicting the market. Now, are there people who have predicted wrong? Absolutely. Apple, for one, okay? They came out with this tablet years and years and years ago. I forget what it was called, but it was the Apple Newton. That's what it was. You can find these things on eBay. They're really, really expensive now. The reason why they're expensive is because they died really quickly. But that's part of it, right? You hit some, you swing and miss on some. That's just the reality. And if you swing and miss too many times, you're Paul Otellini and your company is forever mired in mediocrity stock-wise. Or when you swing for the fences and you hit big with the iPhone, or with like Jensen Huang and his whole bet that GPUs would not just be for video cards anymore, that they would be powering artificial intelligence and machine learning, you create the world's most valuable company. The other thing is all of these progressives are like, oh, they're making so much money. Well, guess what? Okay, if you read the Supermicro annual report, Charles Liang makes $1. His annual salary is $1. All of his compensation comes through stock. The better the company does, the more money he makes. And that's the same thing with all of these other CEOs. Their paycheck is relatively modest when you look at their actual position in the company and in the world. How they make their money is with stock. They get stock grants, they get options, they get restricted RSUs, restricted stock units, I think is what it's called. And they make their money when they sell the stock when it goes up. But the progressives want to see these companies do more. Maybe they should do more for your constituents, right? So I've got all these poor people living in squalor in my district, and they're not doing enough to help them. Well, guess what? These people aren't helpless. You're keeping them helpless. You're making them think that they are helpless and they've gotten no hope because of whatever. They're victims. They're not victims. They want the American dream just like everybody else. And most of them are willing to work for it. Okay? The above mentioned CEOs didn't come from much. Really, they didn't come. Steve Jobs didn't come from much. Elon Musk didn't come from much. Charles Liang didn't come from much. Lisa Su didn't come from much. Neither did Jensen Huang or Jeff Bezos, right? They were just middle class. But that doesn't matter, right? You want to keep these people, your progressives constituents, in squalor so they can remain dependent on you and your twisted policies. Well, maybe if you find a way to motivate them and make them better, then they won't be victims anymore. But then if you were to do that, then you'd be out of a job and you wouldn't be in office anymore because you would no longer be a progressive. You would be part of the system. And then you would lose all of your street cred. Anyways, I'm kind of rambling here. But again, I think you all got my point. If you like what you see, like what you hear, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you want to piss somebody off because they are a liberal progressive and they think that these people make too much money and it should be spread amongst the needy and the victims, share this with them and piss them off. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks again for joining. See ya.